So way back in the day, I've had a bunch of cars. First one started out was a 1979 Ford Fiesta, and I rebuilt the engine, redid the interior, gutted the interior, transmission, all that stuff, repainted. But it was great on fuel mileage, but it was also kind of is a 79 Fiesta, right, which is like a low budget car. Anyways, I wasn't happy with that, so I went and I traded it in on a car that I really, really liked at the time, which was a 1989 Camaro Rally Sport, and it only had the 2.8 multi-port fuel injection, and it did okay. Still cost me an arm and a leg, but the paint started peeling off of it, and it was this really pretty metallic blue, but the paint started peeling off of it, and I knew I was never going to be able to pay with the car payment and the insurance. I knew I was never going to be able to repaint it, so I ended up trading it and then buying another car, which was a Mitsubishi Starion, and I think I almost traded it straight across, something like that. So I ended up like getting that one for like $6,000, and anyways, I only had that one. It had lots of power and stuff, but I only drove it for like a year and a half, and then it started having problems, which is funny because there's that red one right there. I bought that one kind of not to relive glory days, but kind of relive glory days. Anyways, I didn't sell the black one. It's still up in Oregon, but the engine fried on it. It's just been sitting up there without an engine in the engine bay. It's in a crate. So after that, and around like 1996, I wanted a good, reliable car, so I bought this one behind me. So this is a 1992 Rally Sport, and it was in great shape when I left it up in Oregon, but unfortunately a bunch of stuff happened to it. My older brother backed a car into the driver's door right there, put a big old dent in it, and somebody set something apparently on the T-top and snapped that, so it's broken. And what happened was a bunch of moisture got into the car. It rained so much in Oregon, so it did stuff like crack the dash. Also, the interior of the car kind of smelled like mildew. And the biggest thing for me is this was in a really bad car accident. And this whole side of the car, the opposite side of the car, was destroyed, right? So there was a big old a dent and crease right in here. One of the T-tops, this one went flying off. That's why this one looks a little bit different from the other one. This was off of another car. They reskinned the door. They redid the fender, which I don't know when this happened, but there's another dent right here. And it needs to be repainted. The interior was in flawless condition when I left it, and it's still in pretty decent condition. As a matter of fact, I've got plans for most of this interior. Most of it, like the trim and stuff. But just stuff happened, and it's really heartbreaking. And I got the car running, but this car had overheat issues, and it had a bunch of other stuff to it. And just for the amount of money that I'd have to spend to get it corrected, it just didn't sit well with me. And the other thing about this, probably the most gut-wrenching thing, is if you look at the body, this side here, on this side, is slightly higher than the other one, and it's to the tune of about 1.5 inches. And I'm not sure when that happened, probably during the accident. This was back in 98, right? So the bottom line is it never drove the same afterwards. And the other thing is, if you look at the axles, see how that rear axle is kind of tucked in, and this one is not, it's flush. Anyways, the amount of money it would take for me to get just the body straightened and a new paint job on this, it's just more than I can deal with. That car, the engine is on a stand. I still need to just finish putting it back together and running it. But right now there's no engine in this car. And then on top of it, there's the truck, which, as you can see, it's not even on the frame. So this is what I ended up doing. I ended up buying another car that looks just like this one. A couple minor details. This is an RS. The one that I'm getting is a Z28. and it doesn't have this. It doesn't have the this decal, which that is all that it is. It's a decal. But anyways, the Z28s, they had a couple of neat features on them. They have basically these, they call them hood blisters. They pop up, they fit right there. And then also they have the, I think it's an F40 style spoiler on it. Not that I don't like this one, but as a result of them doing this, and I could never get them to fix this. Look how far out it is, right? So something happened with the hinges. Like I said, it really just, it's heart-wrenching for me to get rid of this car because I've had it since like 1996, and I put a bunch of miles on it. At certain points in my life, this was like the only thing that I had was this car, that and my guitars. So I don't want to get rid of it completely. The other thing is I need it for the novel, and two, I never got to drive this car with the T-tops off like I should have been able to do more than just a couple days out of the year because it always rained up in Oregon. So the good news is, here in about 15 minutes or so, the other one is supposed to be showing up. There it is. Yeah, they overshot. It's fine. All right, so the car got delivered, and I'll talk about what's right and what's wrong on this. Couple things. Like you'll notice this, how there's a gap in here. That's something that did not get caught on the pictures. If I was paying full price for this car, it would have been another story. But I clearly am not. And the other thing is, I have most of these parts on the other car. So, I'm not too terribly worried about that. It's kind of funny to see the same issue on my other car as this one. I don't think this one's ever been in an accident. But, one thing that I am seeing, so it's popped loose right here. There's some wave in it right here. And I don't know why the emblems are gone, but then there's this. Also, the fender's popped out. All right, and then the other thing is, right off the bat that I noticed, is right here. This is punctured outward, which pretty much means that somebody had something underneath of the hood. They closed the hood on it. And during that time, they probably also popped this. Okay, so the thing is, this is up. That means the whole thing got lifted up. And that's why it's popped out, because it's attached here. Popped this out. And unfortunately, if you look underneath, you can see where either this hit something really hard or somebody tried to jack it up. I think what happened was somebody tried to jack it up, and I know this because I have done this before. So the fender got pushed up. Honestly, I think the body shop could probably do that pretty well. Other than that, I don't see minor amounts of oil and stuff on the engine. The tires could use some cleaning. Interesting thing. So the interior's in pretty good shape, but it's all gonna go, all of it. Everything that's red inside here, it's all gone. I was kind of happy to see this though. This right here. This is basically, it's a sunshade. It just rolls up in the back. These are not so easy to find. They're like, I have another one, right? But anyways, I was worried because this piece right here broke on mine and I just used a screw. But anyways, I was kind of happy to see that. And, oh, like even this trim piece is gonna have to come off. I don't know what that's about. Sometimes these seals leak. Looks like this one was replaced, but I don't know why they would have. All right, so all the carpets bleached. The thing doesn't run. There's some extra stuff in here, but as you can see, the distributor is not in it. I don't know why he pulled it out. I think it was during troubleshooting. But honestly, I'm more about the body. If I were to have bought this car running, it would have cost me at least $8,000. I've seen them upwards of 20, right? The thing is, I couldn't find one with T-tops, and that's kind of the biggest deal for me. So Z28, I would rather this was a 92, but it's not, it's a 91. It's got the lights on it. It's got the hood blisters, which those themselves are hard to come by. And I'm going to take some measurements. I think you can see that little dimple. That little dimple right there, where somebody closed the hood on it. But I'm gonna have to get that straightened out. I'm gonna maybe do some measurements, but I think the biggest problem is simply that it needs some adjustment, and that needs to be pulled back down. Other than that, it's pretty straight. Certain things that happen. That's not good. This looks like there's rust underneath. So that might have been repaired at one point. And I was happy to see that there's a Kenwood stereo in here. Kind of funny. What mine doesn't have is this switch. These are for the lights under the grill. And this car, it needs some TLC. That's what it needs. Mine's starting to fall down. I'm going to replace this. But at least stuff like this. Is well, let me tell you this. If I didn't have another donor car, I probably would not have bought this because of the interior color. I think it would have been a real pain. Well, I got my work cut out for me on this one. Underneath the hood. These things are dreadful to get open. Every Camaro that I've ever owned has this problem. I'm gonna need both hands. So under the hood, he was telling me that he had fuel injection problems. He couldn't get it straight. So one of the things is the distributor is not in it. They're in the back on these. That's not a factory coil. Most of the other stuff looks good. Obviously, he's got the spark plug loom taken off. And the battery still had stuff in it. I imagine this engine is tired. But it is all put together. So at least I'm not starting from a mess. One of the things about these particular cars though, is these end up wearing out, and then you have to have an individual help you. So, but it's intact. That's right. Might have these too on my, not the throttle body, but on the other one you just pop those loose and there's air filters underneath. Kind of like a cold air intake. I got my work cut out for me on this one. Alright, so here's one of the first issues that I'm going to deal with. I choose to, and why? Because it's like not as daunting. And I don't want to get into the engine today. So these are old wheels, right? They've probably been on here since close to 91, right? So the problem with these wheels is, like, you can clean these and they're still kind of dull. A little bit of elbow grease and we end up getting this nice shiny mirror finish, but you have to use a product. This is what I like. Mother's Mag and aluminum polish. And then I use the equivalent of a power ball. So basically you just slather it down and start spinning with the drill. And it's time consuming for sure. But versus looking dull, and you know, there's nothing about this that looks nice and shiny. It looks like a wheel that's been on here forever. Versus down below you can see the reflection. I could technically take these off and have somebody else polish them for me, but I don't know. I think I'm gonna spend a little time with the new car. So here's another funny thing. I'm looking down here and it's like it's only got one exhaust pipe, and there's supposed to be a muffler there. So I imagine if we fired this up it'd be pretty loud. Somebody just took it right out. So what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to have this exhaust pipe going into a muffler right there, and then there's a dual exhaust. There's another pipe that comes out the muffler and pops out this side. and it's not there. So, obviously somebody's been working on the rear end because they pull it apart. They didn't clean it very well, but they did clean it, and it's got drum brakes. And I would imagine that this is a regular differential rear end, which does not work for me. I knew it going into it. Like I said, that doesn't work for me, so it's going to have to come out. It's the original tank. Not seeing any crumples in the frame. So other than the fact that it looks like somebody lifted it up, I think it's okay. Like looking at the tires, so the tires come all the way out. Like they're pretty much pushed out to the edge of the fenders. That one looks good. Yeah, it doesn't look like it got damaged too much, but seriously, I have got a ton of work to do on this car. Alright, so there's two products that I really like. This Mother's Aluminum Mag and Polish Cleaner. You can see how dull this is right here, right? And then you can see what it looks like afterwards. And the way that you can pretty much just use this with a rag, right? But what I like to use are these power balls. These are, I think they're hideously overpriced for what they are. They're like $27. Here's the problem. Once you let them sit for a while, you can see all that. This is what's left. This is what's left of the sponge material, whatever this foam is. So anyways, I went and got the cone shape this time because I want to be able to get inside of here, and that would be almost impossible to do with this ball. And they make a smaller one, but it's not going to work for me. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this one and get these wheels all nice and shiny. Reality, that was like 10 bucks, and this was like 27, throwing the tax, and probably about an hour a wheel to get these fixed. And you know, we're looking at $10 in an hour per wheel, but I think it'll be worth it. It seems like there would be a way to fix this. Alright, so problem is grabbing a hold of this and it's getting caught. This is because of the air supports. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop those off right there, and I'm going to replace them. They're, I forget what they were. They're like $22 a piece. So that's what I'm going to do. They're pretty easy to do. All right, so these, from what I remember, are not that hard to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get in here and I'm going to pop them loose. At least that was my plan. To take loose. All right, I think there's maybe a release on here. No, there's no release.
Okay, just start prying.
So I'm just going to bend these clips back. Alright, so that's one of them. These little clips, they go in, but they don't want to come back out so easily. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the shock is on the up position like this. These are actually seem to be spun a little bit. Damn it. These are spun out 180 degrees, so I'm just going to spin them. And then I'm going to drop it in. That one goes snap. Alright, can you lift it up more? More.
It won't go anymore.
Alright. Will that one hold it by itself? Alright, so that's one of them. And we're just to snap the other one off too. The reason why I bought these, this is the brand that I went with, but I buy these at O'Reilly's because I have replaced these over and over and over again to the tune of about $40, and they last a couple years. These have got a lifetime warranty on them, so I like to use those. These are a little bit of a pain, but this metal clip has got to basically be pried off, and then the other one right here. The new ones are really easy to snap in place, but they're hard to get out. All right, that didn't take long to replace, but as a result, I'm probably gonna, you can see that it wants to come back up on its own. So when it comes down, this is gonna be much, much safer for dropping down and putting back up. And that side over there still seems a little weak for some reason. Like maybe there's a problem with this hood or something else. One of the things that can happen is we get something that's rusted or sticking. People don't fix it, and what happens is it starts to stretch the metal and move it, and unfortunately it starts to either separate, like you can kind of see, maybe it's separated a little bit there. Anyways, it becomes a bit of an issue. So, but it's opening up much better than it was. Then, you know, there's other little things like these little pads right here that it sits on. You can see that there's not much left of it. It literally is down to the bolt, right? So it's not sitting on there. That doesn't help either. Anyhow, well, that's the first issue is fixed. The fact that the hood doesn't open and close properly. So I'm just going to go ahead and close it for today, and then I'm going to get back to what I was doing, which is the wheels. And it's kind of a good thing because normally you have to prop that hood open with something like a broomstick, and the odds of it coming down and hitting you, the hood's pretty heavy. I wouldn't want to do it, so it's better just to replace it right off the bat for safety reasons. What do you think about that interior? It's all factory red.
It's a bit ugly.
You know what I think? I think it's hideous.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. There's not even like a dashboard under there, and there's terrible
all this
thing
stuff
on this.
that's just not quite right on this. Oh yeah, it's all gonna go. It looks like the seats are in pretty good shape, other than they need to be reupholstered. So new carpet, new reupholstery. I'm gonna buy a kit. There's other stuff
also
like
need
this
the
piece
bumper.
right here. Obviously this is broken. This is for the remote mirrors. They're not power windows, they're remote mirrors, right? So anyways, this apparently they took the screw out and it's broken. They broke this piece off. There's a little arm that comes in here. I have one. Unfortunately, it's kind of rusty. I'll clean it up. But other little things like this, I don't know if I can get another one of these pieces, but they have a tendency to want to pop out. And then, I mean, look at this. The carpet's coming undone. But very first thing that I'm going to do is simply get it running. Here's another thing that they did that I don't really care for. This is one of those new plastic covers, right? This isn't the original dash. Why'd you pop the lid?
I wanted to see if that worked.
It does work.
Okay,
So-
because it was popping off of the dashboard.
Yeah, I know. The switch needs to be fixed.
There's also the badges are missing. And
I saw that. So this is one of the
spoiler
other
isn't
ones.
very nice.
Normally there's enough pressure on these for it to pull it all the way up by itself. On certain Camaros, certain year Camaros, this is pretty much the problem. The 83 Berlinetta that my friend had, this whole area was just filled with water, and because it's such a large window that you can't close it enough to get a good seal. And so what they did is they came up with this mechanism, and when you close it, it actually pulls it down. So I think these are kind of cool. The license plate in the lock. Nice. Look at the giant crane fly. All right, back to polishing. Hey, what do you think?
I wish that I could show that without
About the car.
paint.
What do you think about the car?
It's better than the other. It's slightly better than
All
the
right.
other.
All right, I've had enough of your opinion.